country temporarily without fear of deportation. You can come out of the shadows and get right with the law.
Welcome back to Citizen Benoit concerning President Obama's executive action and the changes and additions that have been made to executive action. Before I begin explaining those items, I want to clear up a few myths and misconceptions. First of all, I know a lot of people are reluctant to come forward and apply for these benefits. In fact, when DACA first came out, many Filipinos were reluctant to do so. But I also remember many, many years ago, Filipinos would apply for immigration benefits that they were not entitled to just to get a work permit. For example, they would apply for political asylum, claiming to be persecuted when they were not. There was the CSS LULAC, where you had to have been in the U.S. before January '81. They were not. They still applied just to get the work permit. Now, the president is offering a legitimate path for you to get a work authorization. And people say, well, it's only good for 3 years. It is good for the 3 years. It can also be renewable. People say, well, what if I get denied? Will they come after me? They have already stated, the Department of Homeland Security, that even if denied, they will not turn you over for deportation, of course, unless you're a criminal or a terrorist. But they will not be using your information when applying to go after you or your family members. And that has happened, as an example, with the DACA. So therefore, here is this marvelous benefit available to Filipinos, a legitimate work authorization. And I strongly encourage all of you, first of all, you can check my Facebook or website for continuing updates, but see an attorney for your eligibility and do take advantage of this benefit if you are eligible. Now let's go into some of the details. The President expanded eligibility for deferred action for childhood arrivals, or DACA. So let's compare the new and the old versions of DACA. Both of them require that the young person must have entered the U.S. before the age of 16. With the new DACA, the child must have entered the U.S. before January 1st, 2010. The old DACA must have entered the U.S. before June 15, 2007. So this means more children could be eligible. For example, if they entered the U.S. before age 16 in 2009, they could now be eligible, whereas under the old version they were not. Under the new version of DACA, the child must have lived continuously in the U.S. since January 1st, 2010. The old version, they had to have lived continuously in the U.S. since June 15, 2007. So at least 3 years less that they have to prove that they have lived in the U.S. There is no age limit for eligibility under the new version of DACA, as long as the person entered the U.S. before age 16. Under the old version, the child could not have been over age 31 as of June 15, 2012. So literally, you could be a 50-year-old DACA eligible person. If you entered the U.S. way back in the 90s when you were under 16, you were here from January 2010 up to the present, and you have no other avenue to get a green card, you may be eligible for DACA. Under the new version of DACA, work authorization is granted for a period of 3 years and is then renewable. Under the old version, it was only 2 years. Now, some people say, well, this is under President Obama. What happens in 2016? And there's a different president. My personal opinion is, once this program is in place, the Republicans are going to have an awfully difficult time taking it away from people. And I don't think that they will, because in the past, during Reagan's time, Bush Sr.'s time, when deferred action was granted, nobody cut it out or took it away. It would enrage the immigrant groups if the Republicans would do that. So in my opinion, this is a Number one, certainly legitimate benefit, work authorization. You will not be turned over to ICE, and I believe this program would continue unless, of course, Congress will finally pass an immigration law that may include these types of items for dreamers. And now, DAPA, Deferred Action for Parental Accountability. I guess they just wanted it to rhyme with DACA, so that's why they call it DAPA. Here are the elements. And first of all, let me tell people that there was a lot of discussion about parents of DACA recipients being eligible for work permit. That did not happen. So if you have a child who received DACA benefits, the president did not extend any benefits to the parents of DACA recipients, so be aware of that. Now, certain parents do get work authorization and relief from deportation. The requirements under DAPA are that the person must have had a child who was a U.S. citizen or green card holder as of November 20, 2014. So if your child was born November 19, 2014, you're in luck. If your daughter married a U.S. citizen and got her green card in early 2014, you would be eligible. If they are still waiting for their green card and it is granted after November 20, 2014, then this will not apply to you. The next requirement is the parent must have entered the U.S. before January 1st, 2010. Now that's a very important date. That now applies to the revised version of DACA. It is also applying for DAPA. So the parent of the citizen or green card holder must have been living in the U.S. essentially at least for 5 years. And they must have lived continuously in the U.S. since January 1st, 2010. So if they visited in 2010, went home, and they came back in again 2 months ago, they would not be eligible for this benefit. The person must have been in the U.S. on November 20, 2014, when President Obama announced this new benefit. And they must have been out of status. If they were still, let's say, on a tourist visa that was not expired, they were still in status. It's a strange sort of thing with these benefits. Only people that have been out of status could be eligible for work authorization and relief from deportation. The person must, of course, pass criminal and security background checks. They're going to be fingerprinted to make sure that they are not a bad person, but instead they are law-abiding. They must pay taxes because, of course, as part of the benefit, they're going to be getting work authorization. They're going to be getting SS number, and they will be able to find a well-paying job or can work anywhere. The work authorization is valid for 3 years. For DACA, it's right now 2 years, but both DACA and DAPA will get work authorizations in 3-year time periods, and it is renewable. And aside from the work authorization, you do not need to live in fear of deportation, because this is putting you on the back burner. As I said before, this program is that you are effectively a law-abiding person and low priority for deportation. The government's going to focus on the felons and the terrorists, etc. Those are the basic elements of DAPA. Another new program is the expansion of the provisional waiver of the 3- and the 10-year